Hi everyone, this is Miss Anderson. We are going to be learning about organic shapes today, and we are going to be making a still life with some organic shapes, and we're going to use oil pastels. So the first thing I want to share with you is that organic shapes are shapes that do not have names. So circle, not an organic shape. Oval, not an organic shape. Triangle, not an organic shape. Okay? So organic shapes are shapes mostly from nature. Blob shapes like a puddle, clouds, leaves, animals, anything that would like move and change, and shapes that cannot be measured. So I wanted to show you an example of an organic shape picture that I made a few years back. These are shapes of pumpkins and gourds that we see a lot of during this fall time of year, and I'm looking back at this and thinking, wow, why didn't I go over these lines? So we can always make our artwork better, right? I'm going to quickly do those lines, and then I want to share with you, in looking at this picture, you can see that one side over here is very dark. So this is dark, this is dark, this is dark, dark, and dark and shadowy, and they also are making shadows on the table. We do that by adding some black oil pastel on top of our oil pastel that we used to color these in. The reason we do this is because we're pretending that there's a light right here, and it's shining down on all of our fruits and vegetables. And so you can see I actually added some white here. Some colors it's hard to add the white, but this is the highlighted side, or the light side, and so this side is the dark side, and that's how it looks in nature. So here's a much smaller example, and same thing. I want you to notice that I used oil pastels. Oops, a little too close. And I shaded one side. In this case, the shady or the dark side is on the right, and the light side is over here. So this stays light, and this gets shaded, and then the shadows are on the table to the right. So we're going to start today with a piece of paper, not too big, and on your table you will find, or there may be in a box for you to choose from, lots of artificial. They are not real. Some of them are real. This is an old gourd that I've kept for years, and I like this shape. It's kind of like a pear shape, but I like it because it's bigger. So maybe I won't do the pear. Sort of a squash shape. There's lots of different shapes for us to choose from, and because I have a limited amount, you can always make them bigger if you need to. So I'll probably make this one bigger, make it look like a pumpkin. But for now, my friends and I could arrange these on a table, something like this. And I know it's difficult for you to see my view, but my view will be something like this, right? Because I'll be seeing the side of these. And I'm just going to start drawing. We're going to use a pencil. Write your name on the back, just in case. We don't want it to get lost. I think I'll zoom in just a hair. Whoops, too much. Turn your paper over so your name is on the back, and then begin drawing your shapes. Now I'm going to just draw mine really fast because I don't want to bother you guys too much sitting and watching my whole process here, okay? So I am just sort of penciling these in, looking at what I see. I've got a little apple over here, orange over here. And I'm going to make the orange in front of this other shape. So notice how I erased that overlapping line. Maybe I'm not doing them dark enough to show up on the video. Let me make that a little darker. I think I'm going to do that pumpkin shape, but I'm going to make it big because I like big pumpkins. And it's okay to make your pumpkin a little bit bigger. Well, I don't know if it'll be down there. It'll probably be back here. Sorry. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay, that's why we have erasers, right? So I think I'll make this stem going this way. Part of this is sort of coming from my imagination because this pumpkin is much smaller in real life, sitting here on my desk. Okay, so I have 3. I think I'll make 4 for this picture. I think I'll do an apple. I have an apple sitting here to look at, and it's red. So I'm drawing my apple, and it's going to be in front of this. I'm going to erase that overlapping line. Then I'm going to draw a line on the left and on the right, and this part will be my table, okay? So I'm only going to shade one shape for you today because I don't want to take up too much time. And I have these oil pastels, and this one's a little dirty. So what I'm going to do is just take a Kleenex. You can either do it like this down on the desk or wipe it off with the Kleenex. That'll help clean it off. They get dirty from touching each other in the basket. So when you're coloring with oil pastels, you want to put it on really thick. Some kids like to use it on the side and just go like that. That's not really the way it's supposed to be done. So I'm going to zoom in on this just a little. You want it to be really solid dark. It's okay if you go out of the lines a little bit. You are the artist, so don't worry. You are making the rules here with your oil pastel. And I think this is pretty much colored in the way I need it to be. So now I will get either a dark brown or a black oil pastel and a white. And for this picture, even though I'm only doing one, I am going to pretend, where's my black? Sorry guys, might have to get up and get a black. Okay, well I've got my white. I'll use dark brown. Oh, I just used a black, didn't I? Here it is. Sorry about that. So I will go over my details. I had a little detail, and I know that it was a little dark around that dent. You can sort of blend it with your finger if you want. The fingers will get messy, but that's a fun way to do it. And then I'm going to pretend that my shadow, let's see, I'm going to have my light side be over on the right here. Oops, I've got to zoom out. My light is going to be here. My shadows are going to be over here. So for this vegetable, it's actually a fruit, an orange, I'm going to go on top of my orange with black on this one side only, and I'm going to add a little bit of shading. Shading doesn't have to be as dark as the other kinds of coloring that you just did. And if you want, you can smear it with your finger. I know it's going to happen. A lot of kids like to do this, so I'm showing you how. You don't have to smear it with your finger, okay? You could smear it with a Kleenex, or you could just kind of gently go over it. It's also going to have a shadow on the ground, okay? So I'm going to quickly do that just so I don't forget later when I do the color on my tablecloth. So one side is in shadow, and that looks a little bit 3D, and one side is going to have some highlights. And like I said earlier, the highlights don't always show up very well, so just keep trying to put a little white on top. Miss Anderson will see it when she grades your paper, and I will know that you tried, although it's showing up pretty nicely on here, and it's making it look like a 3D orange. So I have another example here that I started working on. This time the shadow, the dark sides are going over on this side. So my big shadows would all be over here. Big shadow from this pumpkin. And the shadow for the banana. I'm a little further along on this one. Okay. And the light side would be over here on this side. So we're going to continue coloring our shapes, adding the highlights and the shadows. We are going to add a tablecloth or a table for our shadows to go onto, and some kind of a creative wall or background. You can color it in solid. Here's an example that I started, not finished, but you can see I'm coloring things in with a solid blue at the top and solid green at the bottom. That's okay too. So I want you to go ahead and work on shading your vegetables. Remember, we draw with pencil first. Don't forget to make them overlapping each other. And then use your oil pastels. You will not finish this today. If you did, you probably went a little too fast. Go back and add more shading and highlights and color things in really good. And I hope you have fun working with organic shapes and oil pastels for a fall-themed still life. A still life, by the way, is anything that's still. So any objects that you would put on a table that aren't going to get up and run away, like a dog or a cat or a mouse, things that you set on a table and you draw as an artist is called a still life. So I hope you had fun.